Today's session, it is a part of the Catalyzing Your Communication to Increase HPV Vaccination series, designed to provide attendees with forecasting trends within various communication channels, discuss best practices to tailoring communication messages, empower partners to explore innovative approaches to communication, evaluate communication plans and campaigns. The purpose of today's session is to provide information on how to adapt cutting-edge tactics and real-time responses to the dynamic communication environment. We know that the ever-changing landscape of communication can be complex and challenging, especially when curating messages and developing content to disseminate around HPV vaccination. So join us as we explore a new communication landscape. Before we begin, I just want to address a few housekeeping things. First, today's seminar will be recorded. The link to view the recording and a PDF of today's slides will be shared with all who have registered. In addition, the recording link will be posted publicly in the future. If you have any issues during today's seminar or have any questions for our presenters, please use the chat function. And to ensure that there are no disruptions during the presentation, all participants have been muted. So before we get started, we have a quick question for you. Thinking about your roles and your organization, what are the greatest challenges that you've experienced related to HPV vaccination communication? So we see a few of the comments coming in. So providers being weary, lack of knowledge, parents only wanting what's required for school, being willing to use presumptive language, vaccine hesitancy, lack of availability of educational materials in different languages. Please keep your comments coming in. Our presenters hopefully will have some time to address some of these concerns and challenges as the forum continues on. So for today's session, we have Dawn Crawford, our only presenter. She serves as the CEO and Chief Communicator of BCDC Ideas. Today, she will present on the topic of catalyzing your communication to increase HPV vaccination. Dawn Crawford is the engine behind BCDC Ideas and has dedicated her career to do good. Dawn brings her considerable experience and expertise to helping elevate the nonprofit sector. As her team's lead strategist, Dawn is often seen leading idea storms, penning communication plans, or training clients. Before launching BCDC Ideas in 2010, she earned her chops in 10+ years of communications leadership roles for public health, healthcare, and youth-focused nonprofits. Working for nonprofits is Dawn's dream job, and she loves that her 40+ hours a week make the world a better place. Let's go ahead and welcome Dawn.
Hi, Gabby, and everybody joining us for the presentation today. I'm so glad to see you and chat with you a little bit more about communications. Great. So thank you so much for that amazing introduction, Gabby. But again, Dawn Crawford from BCDC Ideas, 20+ years of nonprofit communications, and we do everything that a communications director should, could, or would love to do. So we get an amazing opportunity to also support immunization-specific nonprofits for our entire life of our agency. So we really wanted to thank the National HPV Vaccination Roundtable, the Association of Immunization Managers, who are both of our current clients, and then also past clients like Vaccinate Your Family, and all of our amazing immunization and vaccination clients over the last 13 years. Working in social media every single day on these issues has informed to this presentation. So today we're really talking about communications tactics and tools, right? So for the first half of the presentation, I will be talking about the state of social media. So how do you propel those messages out on social media when so much has changed. The second half of the presentation, we'll be talking about what is the best communication strategy for 2023. As I'll kind of discuss in the state of social media, a lot has changed in social media. So relying on it as an amplification and broadcast tool is going to be really rough. And then we'll finish it out with some questions from you and from the audience. So the current state of social media. So the reason I really like to talk about social media first when we talk about immunization and vaccination communications is that this is the crux of where a lot of the problem is, right? So a lot of folks are finding information on social media or just on digital, outposts in general, and it's causing doubt, it's causing misinformation. But with good communication and good skills, that a organization can really help inform parents and address all the concerns and questions that you have heard through social media. So the first thing that I think every communicator needs to know about social media right now is that it has changed a lot. It's not just you. I think a lot of us are really experiencing declines in engagement and in traffics and activity, and just, the joy of social media is kind of gone for a lot of us. So I have always worked in immunization and vaccination communication, really since the dawn of Twitter. So I was on the platform in 2012-ish, and it has really started there, and with Jenny McCarthy really kind of sharing a lot of her anti-vaccine stances on the platform, and it was her tool for sharing her beliefs about vaccination. And I think even today, especially with HPV vaccination, there's just a lot of information out there, right? Good and bad. So, but the landscape has really changed. It has changed a lot. It has really shifted to more of a paid model. That idea that we can share our messages for free on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram isn't really the case anymore. The platforms are definitely looking at how to make money from all of this attention, and it has really left nonprofits in the dust. So organic outreach. So organic social outreach is when you put a message onto your Facebook page or Twitter page, and it is distributed to your fans and your followers for free. And the reality is that's slowly dying. So we track all of our data for all of our clients. And in the last 3 years, really since the pandemic in particular, it has really started to step down in its reach, in your ability to reach and to educate and to inform people for free has changed and has really stopped in the last few years. And I think the thing to remember with all of these tools is that the goal for all of them is that they want to keep users engaged on the platform. So for all of these platforms, for Facebook, for Twitter, for Instagram, what they're really looking for is for you to create content that engages users, right? So you want reactions and comments and shares and saves and watching videos. And that's kind of the crux of the problem, right? For vaccines, that is where we're getting misinformation and, folks who are saying, well, I don't really believe in that. Or, sometimes asking really great questions. So I think what you want to focus on with all of this is about getting reactions, comments, and shares, but it's about trying to manage for those positive interactions, right? Answering those questions for parents, helping address all those questions that you put in chat with information that is correct, accurate, and true. So I'm going to go through each platform quickly and kind of show you some of the last ways that you can juice these platforms for any sort of free organic reach, free organic engagement. And also, I wanted to show you just some realities of how even the best of the best channels out there, how their numbers really are. So I think if you track and if you pay attention to your social media numbers, that your engagement has dipped a lot, your likes have dipped a lot, your shares have dipped a lot. But I think also it's reassuring for all of us to know that everybody's experiencing the same decline. So I've shared what I've considered definitely one of the top users of that platform in the vaccination world. And then also some of our HPV Roundtable, because we do manage that account. So just kind of showing the juxtaposition and showing the reality of these channels and how few people are really engaging on them. But to keep it positive, this is also to show you the best ways to use these platforms. So I think we're going to talk about this a lot in the communication strategy part. But, for the next year, it's really about redirecting your content, your focus and your efforts in communication to get the biggest bang for your buck, right? And social media probably isn't going to be that place anymore. And we'll talk about where you can put your effort. But if you are still a big believer in social media and really, we've all invested a lot of time and effort into these channels. So, I think there is some still great opportunities to juice these channels to make sure that you're getting the most you can out of the time you spend on your social media channels. So for Facebook, we're definitely looking at an aging population. We're looking at folks who use that population at a day-to-day basis are really these 40 to 65-year-olds. It's folks who are kind of the prime audience for HPV parents, for sure that HPV parents, this is your prime target audience, are the last kind of group that are still using this. Just know that only 2% of your follower base will receive any message that you post on social media. So it's a really small percentage, right? And you can see for the HPV post that we reached nearly 100 people with our post, which is fantastic, right? There's nothing to be sad about, but we really want to get that in thousands of people, right? For it to be really worth the effort. Video is still very viable. Posting videos on Facebook, they really want those views. They want that engagement and that time spent on video. And you just want to post shareable content. You want to post things that people want to share with their friends, with their networks, with their colleagues. Just make it, shareable. And then it's something that people want to share. And then your post kind of frequency, we're actually recommending daily. Facebook's recommending daily for reach to get the most eyeballs on your content. I know that's a lot, but it is really it's the best place to dump content that, that you get a lot of requests for. It's a good place to put it. So Twitter has definitely received a lot of controversy in the last year with their change of ownership and kind of shifting of what that platform is really going to mean in the future politically. It's something to definitely pay attention to. There is certainly more opportunity for negative attacks on pro-vaccine folks. A lot of the barriers have been removed and kind of fence keeping of helping vaccines stay on the side of science truth. But it's not a wasteland. I don't recommend anybody deletes their Twitter account. We're still kind of in a wait and see mode for that platform in general. The audience there is 35 plus. So again, great audience for HPV vaccine parents. Also, it's still a great place for reaching legislators, reporters. Our HPV Roundtable Twitter account is still very successful. We still get a lot of shares and engagement there. So I think it's still a great place for sharing good information. We have not been kind of flame attacked on Twitter yet. So, occasionally we'll get some negative tweets, but nothing that is really kind of worrisome, honestly. Twitter is the last place that you can really rally the troops, right? So if you have a legislative action or if you have some sort of event coming that you want wide public engagement, that, Twitter is the place to do it. There's still opportunities of people getting upset around things on Twitter. I think Twitter is about controversy, and controversy sells on Twitter. So if, there's bad legislation out there that's somehow it's attacking HPV vaccination or vaccination in general, that Twitter is the place you want to start that campaign and carry it through. It's also a post as needed. Twitter's stream has always been, stream of consciousness. So there isn't really a lot of posting frequency goals here. You just want to post as often as you see fit. So Instagram, our favorite photo and video sharing site. So about a year ago, they said that Instagram was turning into a video sharing site. They have since backed off on that. So they really are, it's a much better balance now of posts and video. So, it's still about 30 age plus. I don't think as many young people are using it. But I think it's definitely aging with millennials, which I think makes a lot of sense. The big key on Instagram is about being genuine, but also niche. So the more that you can be an authentic to your brand and like be one note around your brand, the better. That it's really about creating a content like engagement point for people, right? It is your brand window into all of the work that you do. So Instagram is still a great place to show graphics and videos and people. I think that there's some real opportunity on Instagram of sharing pro-vaccine videos through reels, and that it's a real opportunity to educate people is really within this video content. Certainly followers are slowing. So I think don't have a goal of increasing your follower count on Instagram or honestly any of these accounts. I would not have a goal of having more followers. I would have a goal of having more quality content on any single channel. And it's also posted as you needed. I think at most once a day on Instagram. But 2 to 3 times a week is fine. Also, the algorithm's definitely changing. They haven't really figured out what to do with this channel yet. So there's a lot of opportunity to kind of try and figure out what is working best for your audiences. LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is finally the social media platform we all kind of wanted it to be. It has amazing engagement. It's one of the last places that we're really seeing good engagement numbers. You can see, so the St. Jude post and then the roundtable post, that a lot of people are engaging with information and good information and sharing quality information. And it's not a place where there's a bunch of misinformation. You're reaching professional folks, you're reaching people who are, they want to share good information, right? That is what LinkedIn is all about. It also means it's employed professionals. So really thinking through that you can't put all of your eggs in the LinkedIn basket, because you're really only getting a slice of people who are employed and professionals, and that extra layer of even people who are looking for business or for a job, right? And kind of people fade in and out of that time. But I mean, LinkedIn is still, it's very viable. It's great. The key to LinkedIn and the key to gaining more followers on your page is about personal invites. So the key to the National HPV Vaccinations Roundtable success, and this is a total secret, but here today, I will share the key is Liddy. So she, for last summer after we launched the LinkedIn account, every day, every working day, first thing when she's drinking her coffee, she told us she would go in and just invite people to join the page. So she would spend time every day inviting folks who were members of the roundtable to join the page. So within months, we have reached over 1,000 followers. That is a success. So the key is to ask your staff and your board to invite people to your LinkedIn page to make sure that the right people are seeing the page, and then it will grow after that. But it is personal invites. So like your communications person cannot be the only person inviting people to your LinkedIn page, because they don't have the right connections. So I think, really making sure that you share that invite, that everybody helps with building your audience. It's also, LinkedIn's about people, right? So Kate, who's my colleague who works on the HPV account, that's what she always comes back to. It's like, it's about people, right? The more you can tag organizations, the more you can tag individuals in your posts, the better they're going to be and the more they're going to be shared. And then all content does really well here on LinkedIn. So posts, videos, news links. You can see we even posted a YouTube video and that did really, really well. So it is a great place to put all of your highly educational content to really share with other employed professionals. So TikTok might go away. The US government is still challenging TikTok to be more diversified in its board so that it is not a completely Chinese controlled company. And the government is still threatening to ban use of the platform in the US. So that has not been resolved. But regardless, TikTok is only useful for reaching like young folks. And I think it will age with them, right? It's going to age with Gen Z. So as Gen Z gets older, TikTok's audience will also get older. And, I think my best strategy for that is to find somebody who's in the audience. If it's important to you to reach young people, right, with your message of HPV vaccination or any sort of vaccine information, is that, finding someone in the audience or close, right, of somebody who's just out of college that can really help guide you on what is going to hit with this audience. And there's no magic to TikTok. It's all video. It's all very short video, 15 seconds, 30 seconds. It's just hard work, right? So as you can see, St. Jude, very established brand, we love them. And they still are only getting hundreds of views on their TikToks, not thousands of views. Occasionally they'll get one that gets over 10,000, but it's still very low reach numbers for a very prominent brand. So I think, it's really about, if you have a great idea for TikTok, try it, see if it works. And I think, but yeah, also you have to post daily on TikTok to get reach. So you have to continue to show up in people's feeds for it to be viable and useful. YouTube, the very first social media, often we don't think about YouTube as social, but it certainly is. It has comments, it has sharing. They have regular format. And then they also have new shorts, which is kind of like a Reels function. And it reaches all audiences, which is the magic of YouTube. It's still one of the best search tools that when you put HPV vaccination into the internet, that, videos from YouTube pop up, which is fantastic. The secret with YouTube is that you have to pay for views. So if you have content that you want to ensure lots of people see, you do need to boost it on the back end and make sure that people are watching your content. And definitely use all of the features, using these playlists that we have from, this is the American Association of Pediatrics, but also, with our HPV Vaccination Roundtable page, we're using our, sharing our partners pages and creating playlists and doing all the things to make this platform as organized and useful as possible to the people who drop in there. Okay, so that's social media, right? It's just one part of your communication strategy when you're trying to share information around vaccines. But with this idea that social media is declining, that it is critically important that you don't rely on that tool any further. So I think one thing I've kind of realized for the first time, coming back from the pandemic in particular, is that just how complicated communications is. So as a communications professional or somebody who has to care about sharing your message, it is more complicated than it has ever been. So I am celebrating my 20th work anniversary this year. So I've been, out in the workforce for 20 years. So when I started in 2003, this is all I had to do, literally. I worked at a child abuse prevention nonprofit in Denver, Colorado, and I had to worry about the newsletter, print items, events, public relations, paid media, and a report, supporting fundraising, some advocacy work, and that was it. Like literally, that was it. Like I remember getting blue lines from my printers, and like that was an exciting part of my week. So it was simple and delightful, right? So here we go, 2023. And these are all the things that organizations have to worry about when it comes to communications, right? So you have your website, you have events, you have all those social media channels, which are all different and all need unique kind of attention. You have YouTube, you have just making cool videos, you have podcasts. Oh my gosh, you have this like own radio station. You have your own analytics of understanding if your content is doing well. You have your e-newsletter, your annual report, you're supporting fundraising, you're advocating, and then also response, which is a huge thing for vaccines and vaccination organizations, because you have to answer questions, good or bad, right? You can't just be quiet. And these are all the things we have to worry about now as communications folks. So how do we kind of narrow and really focus on what matters now that social media is truly declining? So the first thing is we have to leverage our tested messages. So I'll talk about it a little bit more, but there's been a lot of money already put in and time and attention put into which messages work best for moving parents to vaccinate their children with with HPV and all the vaccines, right? There's been lots of work done. So we really want to not worry about what we're saying. You just want to worry about how you're saying it and what the package is. That 2023 is truly going to be the last year of organic social reach, that this is the last year that we can really rely on all of these channels for any magic moments in reach that really encouraging everybody to start thinking about how to communicate your work differently. That we have to shift to owned channels is key. So owned channels are the channels that your organization has control over. External are things like social media that people get to pick their own algorithm about who gets to see it and when they get to see it. So really shifting all of your attention and most of your attention to owned channels is key. You do want to invest in video content. Video is here. It is not going anywhere. Really figuring out how to distill those tested messages to your audiences in video is key. And also finding room for paid advertising. So, instead of spending your time on social media, spend your money on social media. So we have messages that work. I have a PDF that I would love to be dropped in the chat right now that are messages that work, right? So really your number one goal should be to use the messages that are already established. There's been lots of testing, lots of work of how to motivate parents to vaccinate their children. And those messages are there, ready for you to use. I think it's about pairing it with trusted messengers for your audience, about getting some diverse faces up there, getting people believe these messages, right? So yes, lots of great stuff from the Roundtable, from AAP, Unity. They're all tested and ready to go for you. And you really want these messages to fuel your communications. So yes, have your trusted messengers, the folks in your community who people trust most, have them say these things. So you want to focus again to these owned channels. So owned channels are the things that you have control over. So they're your website, your email, if you're going to do a texting program, which I really encourage everybody to start looking at texting, especially if you're trying to reach busy professionals, nurses, doctors, those sort of folks. Podcasting, is that a place where you can share your message? Events, anybody who's a brand participant was what we call. So those are people who are, people, if you are a clinic, that people come in your door, things like that. Also, how you're kind of communicating to your coalitions and other associations that you show up to. Have those people help you share these messages. And then also your paid advertising. You do control how much money you put in and the people you want to reach with it. So you want to focus on those owned channels versus external channels. So external are things that we don't have control over, and all of them are changing dramatically, and they're not supporting any sort of nonprofit communications goals or efforts. So those external channels are earned media, so TV, radio, newspapers, bloggers, those sort of things. It's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's Instagram, it's LinkedIn, it's YouTube, it's TikTok. All of these things take so much time. All these external channels take so much time, and is literally a gamble now at this point if anybody's going to see it. So I think just really keep that in mind, that, you know, if you are looking at, should I spend 20 minutes on Facebook or 20 minutes on making sure that my email list is clean and that my email is amazing, then do it on the email, right? Because you know that those are things that are going to reach people who are interested in your brand. So yes, have this mindset set of spending more time building your contact list versus less time building your social reach, right? So social isn't about, it's about using those messages and doing the images that you know that people want to see and go with it, right? I don't know that there's a lot of time to think about and like obsess over social anymore, right? That I think you should obsess over email. You should obsess over events that make people want to interact with your brand. You should obsess with your website again, making sure that it is mobile, making sure it's accessible, making sure it's engaging. So here's 3 things that you can do right now that'll help really kind of tune up your owned communications channels, that they're really ready to start sharing these messages with the audiences that you already have. So you want to clean your email list. There's a lot of good articles out there about how to get your email list in shape. Think about segmentation. Think about creating just a special email list for nurses and only sending them stuff that they're really interested in. You ask your audience what they want and what they like. You know, these are people who are already invested in your brand, already invested in your organization. Ask them what they want. Do they want things on social? Do they want more email? Do they want a texting, right? Do they want to get messages texted to them? Ask them, do some surveying. There's a lot of really inexpensive tools out there. And then invest in professional tools and people. So I think that this communications is complicated and it's specific and it needs professionals to help you do it, right? So whether that's somebody that you hire on your team who is truly a communications professional and has experience, or using, you know, tools and things like that, but that it is definitely time to get that house in gear, right? And really kind of understand if you have communications goals, that you have to have people who are supporting you. The other piece is to invest in video. So getting your videos together, they need to be short, right? Like minute max. Really, it's down to 15 seconds. 15 to 30 seconds is the sweet spot. And the goal is to entertain. Absolutely, it is to entertain. And you can entertain by educating, but it has to be entertaining. And they have to be short, like 15 seconds. So short, right? And HPV vaccination probably takes up about 5 of those seconds. So, you know, it's hard. It's really hard. Great ideas for content is tutorials, right? So showing parents, you know, any sort of thing where you can teach people things that you're quirky and relatable. I think there's a lot of great things where there are, you know, amazing seasoned professionals out there who are sharing really good information. And then you must include people in your videos. So you have to get over not wanting to be on screen, and you have to just connect with the lens and tell your story. So also finding money for paid ads is the best way to ensure that your content reaches the audiences that you care about. So if you just need to find money, and you can experiment with what that budget looks like and which tools and platforms are the best for you. But that social advertising is really easy to customize and to really hit your niche audiences. The HPV Roundtable does it. It's how we get our views on YouTube is all through paid. So, it's not shameful to pay for views and to pay for reach on these things and to pay for clicks. It is something that is incredibly necessary. And it can be as big or small of a budget as you need. That's the greatest thing about social advertising, is that literally with even a budget of $50 a month, you can ensure that even, people within your town or within your region are seeing your content. And you can narrow it down to age brackets and interests and parents or not parents or doctors or not doctors. So there's so much opportunity that, if you have a budget for advertising, that you can reach the people that need to hear your message. And with all this, because it's so complicated and because communications has changed so much, that truly just do what is working for your organization. Really sit back and think about what is working best. What do you enjoy doing as an organization? What do you enjoy doing as a communications professional? And really use that tool, right? So if you know that you get a lot of great questions about HPV vaccination on Facebook, keep using it. Keep using it. That obviously that's a tool where your audience is at, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? That this advice today is really about generalizations, right? And kind of helping give you the fuel to also have conversations with your leadership about maybe why Twitter isn't where we should be right now. That we really want to redirect our interest in doing these 5 things. So, it's really about calling down and focusing on what works for your organization. So in summary, I think and this is hard for me because my Twitter handle is social media rockstar. And so for me to give the advice that you can't depend on social media as your broadcast medium anymore, that it just can't amplify your messages, it's heartbreaking, but it's true, right? We all need to start looking and thinking about where we should put our attention that isn't social media. Spend more time on your email list, instead of your social reach, and making sure that your audience is big, right? Like, it's okay. You can buy those too. You can buy email addresses and, try to cultivate them. It's okay. It's okay to do things that really help reach the people you need to reach. You want to start investing in video content, make it entertaining, and also, find creators who want to help you. And then pay to reach those who need to hear your message. There are so many amazing opportunities out there that you can place this media on your own without very much skill at all to be able to reach the people who need to hear it. So that's what we need to do, right? We need to take these messages that have been so carefully thought through and give them to the people that need to hear them. Well, thank you so much. I would love to hear questions. I'm sure we'll get a lot, and challenges to my information also. But yeah, and this is me. I am BCDC Ideas everywhere. And yeah, I'm excited to hear the questions and dialogue now.
Great. Thanks, Dawn. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Christina Turpin. I'm a director for the National HPV Vaccination Roundtable, and I will be serving as moderator for today's Q&A session. And thank you for all of the questions coming through. We do have a good amount, Dawn. So
Great.
The information was great, and I think this will be even more robust with these questions. So first one, what about Facebook ads? Is that a better way of increasing reach and possibility more cost effective?
Absolutely. So Facebook ads for vaccination can be a little bit tough. They can sometimes snag your content for a political issue. They also snag any sort of climate change. What's the other ones that have been snagged? So you have to be you can fight with Facebook to get them to allow you to share your information. And you can get kind of a special class for your organization. But yeah, Facebook ads are great. They're They're very inexpensive. We've also seen a lot of good success on so Facebook owns Instagram. And so you can advertise on both Facebook and on Instagram from Facebook. And we've done just Instagram ads, which have worked really well. There's some less parameters too. So, but yeah, both of those are very good and very cost effective.
Okay. Next question. How about paying influencers as a strategy?
Absolutely. I think that's great. No, it's very expensive. So influencers in general will want $1,000 to $10,000 per post. And you really do need to pay them. That they are business people, just like everybody else, right? And they value their time and they value their influence. So I think having that strategy is fantastic. It's expensive. And then just make sure you're picking the right people who have really good reach, right? And people who are really aligned with your brand. Because if that person's never talked about healthcare or vaccination, then they might not be the right people are listening to them, right? Like they just don't care. Like whatever. If I'm caring about makeup and then you're like, and then I got my HPV vaccine. I don't know. People are going to care, right? So you just have to be really careful with that.
All right. Can you please discuss on how to develop messaging for communities that have mistrust for the government and medical institutions and have endured historical trauma?
Wow, that's very specific.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's actually really good stuff out there around COVID in particular. I know that message bracket and that message kind of vertical was something that a lot of people really did look at because it is such a real thing for a lot of communities. So I think if you look at messages that move folks in that audience, I would just search it up on Google. That you can definitely find some good research on that. And it is really looking at this research and finding out what is kind of pulling out those kernels of the messages and using those. But yeah, I would definitely look at that in the COVID landscape for vaccination.
And then can you explain a little more when you say 2023 will be the last year of organic social media outreach?
Yes. So again, organic outreach is that free outreach, right? That when you put it into Facebook, that you hope people see it. I think it'll still happen. I think that you'll still reach like 100 people. But if you think about how much time it takes you to do it, like even 10 to 15 minutes of your day, if you calculate that by your income, like, is it worth it? Is it worth it to reach 100 people with something that probably cost you $50 to create? So that's what organic reach is about, right? It's this ability that we're going to be able to freely broadcast our messages and actually reach people that we want to reach. It's going to just peter out, right? That you can continue to use these tools. And in fact, Facebook is going to add a paid level for businesses that you can pay in like $20 a month and receive additional reach, probably an additional kind of things. So I think even with them, I think they're even looking at how to monetize business engagement on Facebook, like all business engagement. So that's what it means, is that it's just that even though you're putting effort and time into social media, that you're not really reaching as many people as you were before.
Okay. Next question, do you see a silver lining here, meaning will the decreased reach of social media lessen the reach and impact of anti-vax content?
Oh, no. It's a good point. I mean, so all these platforms are looking for engagement, right? They're looking for controversy, because controversy means people are commenting and liking and sharing and raging online. I mean, I think that is a good point, though. I mean, I think their organic reach is also going to get diminished. Anti-vaccine organizations have a ton of money coming out of COVID. It really ramped up fundraising for those organizations and investment in those organizations because of the COVID vaccine, that they had something to rage against. So all these organizations have a ton of money, and they are definitely spending a lot of money to reach people with their advertising dollars, right? So I don't know. It's a hard question. That's a good one. I'll have to think about that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, they'll reach less people, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. In your opinion, what will be the most used platform of the future?
Ooh. I do think the video platforms are still gaining momentum and steam. I think people who are gaining fame because of video. And it's because of like controversial video. So it's folks who, are sharing about their postpartum depression, about the time that they broke up with an abusive boyfriend. All of these things are what is really gaining fame, and it's all through video. So I do think, I mean, who knows with TikTok, but Reels and those sort of things, I think is really the last frontier.
All right. And then kind of on that note, how can we draw the line between being quirky and connected to current trends, thinking about trending reels versus coming across as pandering in videos?
Yes, I know. Yeah, it's still authentic, right? That you can be authentic and quirky, that if you have somebody in your office who young people love, like put them on screen, right? Somebody who's good with teenagers, put them on screen. I don't think you have to do dance videos. I think there's a story about on TikTok where a girl got her dad's book on the bestseller list because she told people that like, my dad's book's the best, it's that sort of thing. It is authentic, right? It is super authentic. And that I think being yourself, there's also some scientist guy that talks about snails or something. Like there's so many people who are just like quirky, authentic. And that is what's getting views, right? Is just being you, which is super exciting, right? Like this is the first time in forever that the weirdos all get to be out there and be seen and find our people, right?
Love it. Let's see. What is your view on running a social media campaign for improving vaccination rates, but hiding the comments? During our social media campaign, I noticed many parents saying they don't trust the information when we hide the comments, but we do that because the language used or misinformation being shared.
It's very rare when people don't allow comments, but it's fine. Like I think there's a lot of makers out there and content creators that are turning off comments, and they turn off comments on specific posts that they just don't want to hear trash, right? Yeah. But there's also a movement right now, in particular, in the last couple of weeks, of people posting their worst comments and kind of showing the internet the awful things that they hear, even about like it's a baking account. Somebody makes cookies and somebody be like, that cookie looks dumb, or I would never eat that cookie, or awful comments about the person who's making the cookie. And they're actually posting those comments, I think, therapeutically, but also it's part of this idea of lifting the veil on how awful the internet is. So I think it's fine for you to turn them off. It's also, talk about owning, it is your platform at that point. And the people who say that they don't trust it because it doesn't have comments are the people who you weren't going to convince in the first place. Right? So
it's a good take on it.
Yeah.
What would you recommend if you're trying to reach healthcare professionals to encourage their positive messaging to patients and families around HPV vaccines?
Yeah, LinkedIn. So the CDC has had a lot of success reaching healthcare professionals on LinkedIn. You can also, with paid ads on LinkedIn, you can target your ads to affinity groups. So if you could, all of the doctors associations, so like AAFP, are in the ad panel as a target. So you can actually reach your specific providers in your state, in your area, across the country through paid LinkedIn ads. And definitely HPV Roundtable has had a lot of success of bringing those folks to our page and for them to engage. And I think it's been working really well. I think the other thing is also to use all the platforms that they use. So WebMD, paid advertising there. It definitely, you have to pay to reach providers because their time is so valuable that they're not going to have a lot of opportunity. They're not just hanging out anywhere on social media. Right?
Yeah.
They're not just hanging out. They don't have a lot of time to burn. So you have to pay to reach them, but LinkedIn's really great. It's really, pretty affordable. And affordable, we're saying like $1 per click, which is a lot, but I believe that those are real people who are actually clicking on it.
Okay, we're going to do one final question, and thank you guys for these questions. We definitely use this information as well to see what you guys are wanting to know. So doing these in the future, it's great to have this coming in. So final question, and I'll kick it back to Gabby. Is there a difference between individuals from urban versus rural areas? Are we reaching them equally, and are they engaging equally on social media?
It's a very good question. I'm not an expert in that divide, but I do know that there's a lot of engagement, that rural folks do use social media because it is, especially for young people or for, young adults, it's their way to connect with the world, right? And to see the things that they care about. So we've seen a lot of success of placing ads, paid ads of reaching different areas. That's the only way to target your messaging is to do paid advertising, just to reach rural areas. Like we'll suppress cities and we'll, make sure that only rural areas receive the message. But they do very well, like very high saturation rates that we can say we've reached a lot of people in those rural areas. I think that COVID also helped accelerate and close the internet gap. So during that time, there was a lot of money coming in, making sure that all of these rural areas have access to internet in their homes. So I think that gap is very narrow now. I think there's still obviously places that don't have internet, but it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So I think that it is fantastic use to reach rural folks with these digital platforms. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. I'll kick it back to Gabby, but thanks for letting me moderate today, and great job, Dawn. Gabby.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Dawn and Tina. We had so many great questions today. Unfortunately, we were not able to answer them all. Feel free to reach out to Representative Dawn. She will follow up with you guys to help answer some of the great questions that you posed. So here's the evaluation part of our webinar and our forum series for today. We've dropped the link in the chat. We value your feedback and especially your recommendations about what type of content is most valuable. Please, 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 before you drop off, go ahead and complete our very short and brief evaluation. As a reminder, the seminar is recorded or was recorded. A link will be sent for viewing along with a PDF version of the PowerPoint from our presenter for today. We hope you learned a great deal of information that was not only insightful, but applicable to your communication strategies and activities. We look forward to having you join us in our next 2 forum series sessions, which will be held in May and June, where we're continuing the conversation and giving you some great tips and strategies to improve upon your HPV vaccination communication. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you guys have a wonderful day. Again, do not forget to do the evaluation. We can only do our job if you help evaluate what worked, what did not work, and what you would like to see more of. So we dropped the link in the chat as well as the QR code was shared previously. Go ahead and complete it for us. It's a very brief survey, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Have a great remainder of your Wednesday.